Everyone on the North Shore of Long Island knew the de Villeneuve-Langhams through the most photographed weddings in the Hamptons. 365 days a year, the family was merely rich. On wedding days, they became royalty. White tents the size of aeroplane hangars, orchids flown in from Thailand, a string quartet that once backed Beyoncé, and a guest list that made Page Six weep with jealousy. So when Charlotte de Villeneuve-Langham's only son, Trip, announced he was marrying a girl from regular people, the collective gasp could be heard from Southampton to Sag Harbor. The bride's name was Emily Rose Carter, 27, sweet as peach tea, and her people were from central Pennsylvania. Farmers, teachers, and a couple of state troopers. Nice, normal, and, in the eyes of the de Villeneuve-Langhams, catastrophically broke. The person they worried about most was the groom's grandmother, Mrs. Eleanor Ellie Carter, 74, widowed, retired nurse, and, according to whispered calculations, living on Social Security and a microscopic pension. Ellie had raised Trip's father single-handedly after her husband died young. She still drove a 2009 dented Corolla, clipped coupons, and sent birthday cards with a crisp $20 bill inside. She was the kind of woman who reused aluminum foil. When the save-the-date arrived, Ellie bought a navy blue mother-of-the-bride dress on clearance at TJ Maxx for $39.99. She mailed the RSVP card back with a little note. Looking forward to it. Love, Grandma Ellie. That note was framed in horror in the de Villeneuve-Langham group chat. Charlotte immediately called her wedding planner. We cannot have her looking like she wandered in off the street. This is a $5 million weekend. The planner suggested they gift Grandma Ellie a couture gown and a suite at the Maidstone Club. Charlotte loved the idea. It was charity disguised as generosity, the Hamptons' favorite cocktail. Ellie politely declined the gown, too fancy for these old bones, and the suite. I'll be just fine in the staff quarters with the nannies. We'll play cards. She did accept a ride from Pennsylvania in the family Sprinter van so she wouldn't trouble anyone. Friday, rehearsal day. The van pulled up the Pebble Drive of Halcyon, the de Villeneuve-Langham's $32 million cottage on Gin Lane. Ellie stepped out in orthopedic sandals, a denim skirt, and a white blouse with tiny embroidered daisies. She carried a scuffed Longaberger basket purse that had been out of production since 2003. Charlotte greeted her with air kisses that didn't quite land. "Mrs. Carter, welcome. We have a little surprise for you." Two stylists appeared with a garment bag. Inside was a champagne-colored Oscar de la Renta gown, size 12, retail $14,000. Ellie blinked. Goodness, that's beautiful. But I already have my dress for tomorrow. Navy blue always hides the gravy stains. Charlotte's smile froze. We thought you might like something more appropriate for photographs. Ellie patted her arm. Honey, I've been in photographs since 1968. Navy blue, and I have an understanding. The stylists were dismissed. Charlotte texted the group chat a single skull emoji. Rehearsal dinner was held under a Sperry tent on the ocean lawn. Ellie sat at the far end of the family table between the flower girl and a cousin who spoke only in yachting terminology. Every time she reached for the bread basket, someone refilled her water glass as if she might not know which fork was which. Trip's Aunt Meredith, Charlotte's sister, 3 martinis in, leaned over. Ellie, darling, we've arranged a lovely little room for you at the American Hotel, much more comfortable than the bunkhouse with the staff. Ellie smiled sweetly. That's kind, but I already gave the nanny my famous oatmeal-raisin recipe. We're having a hoot. Meredith's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Of course she managed. Later, when the string quartet began, Ellie slipped off her sandals under the table and wiggled her toes in the grass. She caught Trip's eye across the lawn and winked. He grinned back, the same crooked grin he'd had since he was 6. Saturday, wedding day. At 4 p.m., the string quartet became a 12-piece band, the orchids became a floral cathedral, and 300 guests in pastel linen pretended they weren't sweating. Ellie walked in wearing the $39.99 navy dress, hemmed 2 inches too short by the TJ Maxx tailor, white cardigan over her shoulders because the ocean breeze was a bit nippy. Her hair was set in soft gray curls by the nanny the night before. She carried a small beaded clutch she'd used at her own wedding in 1971. The whispers started before she reached her seat in the 3rd row. "Is that the groom's grandmother? She looks like she's here to clean the tables. Charlotte must be dying." Ellie heard every word. She always did. Nurses develop excellent hearing. It's how you catch the heart murmur in 3B when the monitors are lying. She sat, folded her hands, and waited. This ceremony was flawless. Emily glowed. Tripp cried. Ellie dabbed her eyes with a tissue she pulled from her sleeve, like every grandmother in America. Cocktail hour. Waiters in white jackets circulated with caviar cones and miniature lobster rolls. Ellie accepted a single shrimp and a glass of the house champagne, the $18 stuff they gave the staff, so the good bottles stayed safe. Charlotte cornered her near the raw bar. "Mrs. Carter, we've set aside a lovely mother of the bride suite for you to rest before dinner. The nannies can manage without you tonight." Ellie tilted her head. "Charlotte, sugar. I've been on my feet 12-hour shifts with bedpans heavier than your flower arrangements. I'm just fine." Charlotte's smile was starting to hurt her face. Dinner was announced. Ellie was seated at table 19, near the kitchen, with the college friends and the plus ones nobody knew. She didn't mind. She liked young people. They still believed the world could be kind. The toasts began. Best man, maid of honor, father of the bride, sweet, teary, perfect. Then Charlotte stood, pearls gleaming, champagne flute raised. "I want to say something," she began, voice carrying across the tent like money does. "Family is everything, and today we welcome Emily and all her family into ours. We are so happy to have you." Polite applause. She turned toward Ellie's table, and to Grandma Ellie, who traveled all this way on a fixed income. A collective intake of breath. You could hear the Chanel bracelets clink. "We want you to know there's always a place for you with us. We've arranged a little fund, just a small monthly allowance, so you never have to worry about expenses again. It's the least we can do for Tripp's family." She raised her glass higher. "To never having to choose between medicine and groceries." The silence was arctic. Ellie set her fork down gently. She stood, slowly. Every eye in the tent swiveled. She walked, not shuffled, walked toward the head table. Her orthopedic sandals made no sound on the temporary hardwood floor. When she reached Charlotte, she smiled the same smile she used on frightened patients at 3 a.m. "Charlotte, that is the kindest offer I've heard in years." Her voice was soft, steel wrapped in cotton. "May I say a few words?" Charlotte, triumphant, handed her the microphone. Ellie faced the room. "Y'all are so fancy. I wasn't sure I was allowed to speak without a trust fund first." Laughter rippled, nervous, then genuine. She continued, "I was married in 1971 in a little Methodist church in Harrisburg. My dress cost $72 on layaway. My husband wore his only suit. We had sheet cake and punch, and it was the best day of my life. Today is the second best." She turned to Tripp and Emily. "You two are the only luxury I ever needed." Then she looked straight at Charlotte. "Now, about that generous monthly allowance. I'm going to have to decline. See, my husband died when our boy was 3, left me with a toddler, a mortgage, and $43 in the checking account. I worked double shifts in the ICU. I learned real quick that pride doesn't pay the electric bill, but compound interest does. She reached into her little beaded clutch and pulled out a black American Express Centurion card, the metal one, the one that doesn't have a limit because limits are for poor people. Gasps, actual gasps. Ellie held it up like a priest with the host. Some of y'all might recognize this. It's invitation only. Minimum spend $250 a year just to keep it. I've had it since 1998. She let that settle. In 1982, a patient paid me with 10 shares of something called Walmart because he didn't have cash. I stuck him in a drawer. In 1987, another patient gave me 50 shares of a company his nephew started in Seattle, some computer thing, Microsoft. I bought groceries with coupons and kept the stock. She smiled wider. In 1994, a little warehouse club in Arkansas went public. Patient's husband was an early employee, gave me 100 shares of Costco as a thank you. I never sold. The tent was so quiet you could hear the Atlantic. By 2003, I was worth more than this house and everything in it, cash. But I still drove my Corolla because it ran. And I still shopped the clearance rack because navy blue always hides the gravy stains. She looked at Charlotte, whose face had gone the color of spoiled salmon. So your little fund is really sweet, but I'm afraid I'd break your bank trying to spend what I make in interest in a month. She turned to the wedding planner hovering nearby, pale as the calla lilies. Honey, could you bring me the final invoice for this beautiful wedding? I seem to have misplaced my copy. The planner, trembling, handed over an embossed folder. Looks right. She handed the Centurion card to the planner. Put it on this, and add a 20% tip for the staff. They earned every penny keeping up with y'all. She faced the room again. Oh, one more thing. This cottage, Halcyon, I bought it in 2009 when the market crashed and the previous owners needed cash fast. Paid $14 million, all cash, because I like the way the light hits the dunes at sunset. I let Charlotte's family use it because, well, family. She shrugged. Didn't want anybody to feel awkward. Charlotte made a sound like a dying gull. Ellie walked back to table 19, sat down, and picked up her fork. Who wants dessert? She asked the college kids, who were staring at her like she was Taylor Swift, Jesus, and Oprah combined. The band, sensing chaos, struck up Sweet Caroline. Half the tent was crying, half was filming on their phones, and one hedge fund guy in the back whispered to his wife, "We just got owned by a grandma in a TJ Maxx dress." Later, when the dance floor was full and the champagne was flowing like repentance, Tripp found his grandmother sitting on the seawall, shoes off, feet in the sand. He sat beside her. "Gram, why didn't you ever tell us?" She bumped his shoulder. "Because money is a lousy teacher, baby. I wanted you to learn kindness before you learned net worth. Looks like I still have some work to do on certain folks." He laughed until he cried into her cardigan that smelled like Jergens lotion and oatmeal cookies. Emily joined them, barefoot, veil long gone. "Grandma Ellie," she said, "I think I speak for every Carter when I say please adopt us all." Ellie opened her arms. "Already did, sugar. Day you said yes to my boy." Much later, when the last guests had Uber-blacked away and the staff was breaking down the tents, Ellie stood alone on the lawn of the house that had secretly been hers for 15 years. She looked up at the stars, same stars she'd wished on above a double-wide trailer in 1971, and whispered, "We did okay, didn't we, Tom?" The ocean answered with a gentle wave. She slipped her sandals back on, picked up her Longaberger purse, and walked inside to make cocoa for the nannies. Some habits, like love and oatmeal-raisin cookies, are worth more than any stock portfolio. And in the morning, the navy $39.99 dress would be carefully folded back into tissue paper, ready for the next wedding, the next reunion, the next chance to remind the world that real wealth smells like Jergens, sounds like kindness, and fits perfectly in a 74-year-old heart that never needed proving.